The principles of drawing complex architectural decoration are no different from the principles of drawing everything else. Careful observation, and more careful observation, and some perhaps drawing techniques as well. And at the end of this, I have a little extra to give you, so watch out for it. So here's my reference photo. Careful observation is always the starting point. The more I can understand how this pattern of ornamentation looks, the better I'll be able to draw it. One way I was able to get a better understanding of this pattern was because I'd taken this photo, and at the time I took another photo, this one. This lets me see the ornamentation straight on, which makes it much easier to understand what's happening. The first question is, at a glance, what do we see? We see this circular shape and these circular shapes with a lot of decoration around it. A slightly closer look shows us that in fact these circular shapes here are the result of this lovely scrolling leafy carving. What in fact these are the stems of acanthus leaves. So we have here a burst of leaves and then an acanthus stem that swirls around, circles around, and has a flower at the end. And where it curves under, another branch continues out and repeats the motif with a different flower. To fill in the gaps, we have a few swirling, curving tendrils and some other small flowers and leafy parts and fruits. So that's the pattern that we're looking at. In looking at this scene, the biggest difference in this angle compared to this angle, of course, is the foreshortening. So these round shapes are changed into ellipses that become narrower and narrower as they move further away. And because of the principle of foreshortening, and I have several videos on this in particular if you're interested, because of the principles of foreshortening, the further away an object becomes, the more visually compressed it becomes. So the same size ornament takes up more space down here than it does right up here. Things become narrower the further they slide along into the distance. And one very helpful thing I find is to always find the midway point. If I look at this pattern, I can see that the repeat of the pattern is from here to here. And so this is the first section. It then repeats from there to there, and then it repeats twice more further up. So this is actually the halfway point of this distance. That shows the effect of the compression. Capturing this compression will be very important in giving a sense of the angle and the distance. And because there is a great sense of depth, I want to help create the feel of that depth. And again, I have a video on creating depth in our drawings. But one of the things I will do to create a sense of depth will be to use 3 different thicknesses of line. A 0.3mm line for the closest section, a 0.2mm line for the midsection, and a 0.1mm line for the far section. And that will help give the effect, as the line becomes lighter, that the object is moving further away. And it reflects the fact that in life, we see less detail less clearly the further away an object becomes. So let's start drawing with our 0.3mm pen. I'm using Copic multiliners in this drawing. And because I've redefined the boundary of this ornamentation for my drawing, I'm going to just stick a bit of paper down so that I'm not distracted by that section that I don't wish to draw. I'm going to draw this with a light and loose touch because I feel that suits this decoration. And my approach is to make my initial marks lightly and sparingly, and in my head try and position everything as accurately as I can, because the earliest parts of the drawing I draw will be the reference for aligning the later parts. And so early accuracy in my drawings usually leads to finishing fairly accurately as well. And so I'll start with this circular boss here. So I'm trying to make sure I draw these segments as accurately as I can to reflect the curve shape of this little center. I will spend more time drawing the ornamentation which is closest, because our eye will see this, our brain will take in the detail here and will presume that it continues up there, and will actually let us see detail that we haven't really drawn. I position carefully the strongest visual elements, which are these shadowed areas between the leaves, I actually draw these negatives between the leaf spaces first because getting that nice even pattern is what I want. And now I will fit the leaves in between the gaps between the leaves that I've already drawn. So having finished the stylized acanthus leaf centerpiece, we'll add the stylized petals around the outside. So having finished this first circular motif, now it's time to move on to the scrollwork decoration. So we've covered much more than half of our balustrade carving, and we've basically done one motif. But it will speed up rapidly from here. I also now switch to a 0.2mm pen to create a lighter touch to help give the illusion of distance. So now for the final section of this carving, I'm going to switch to my 0.1 and draw it with a lighter touch. In this final section, I was really just suggesting shapes with lines in ever compressed widths. I decide a little more framing will enhance the drawing, so I add a few more lines just to indicate more of the balustrade surround. And there we have it. The rich ornamentation carved into the side of the balustrade of the National Gallery in Berlin. A beautiful carving and a fantastic subject to draw. Don't be afraid to give it a go. I'm Stephen Travers. I hope you found that interesting and hopefully motivating to try some perhaps complex architectural decoration yourself. Now my extra is that for this video I've posted those two reference photos onto the community page of my YouTube channel. So if you want to go there, you can get them and you can have a go drawing that same scene yourself. I hope you give it a go, and I hope you have more fun than maybe you think you will. Because the important thing is whenever you're drawing, to have fun. I'll see you next time. Bye.